The Terran starts at the bottom left of Daybreak. In red we have for SK-T1.
SK Telecom T1 Fantasy.
With a smackdown in game number 1 against his opponent.
Really nicely done against the player to the top right in blue, like his team color. He is
Liquid Zenio.
Zenio gonna have to, I mean, that was a rough loss. He was a little bit behind from the beginning, but playing against someone who just is so aggressive and so, you know, he just powered through everything. When you play against an opponent like this in game 1, in game 2, you're like, well, I gotta get myself together here, I gotta focus.
You know, there are certain other things that you can do if you are facing such an opening as Fantasy was executing. You can go into a spine crawler instead. This gives you a certain amount of safety, and you don't sacrifice lava. This is the important part. You get a few Zerglings out there, you have the double queen at the bottom and the spine crawler. On a map like Neoplanet S, with how the natural works, this is easily defended. And you can do that. So right now, we have Zenio with the same thing that he did in game number 1.
He seems so concerned about an eBay block that he put his drone down there at 13 before the 14th drone was even made. Then he waited for the 15th drone. So he kept that harvester down there for a really long time, just making sure he doesn't get eBay blocked. He really wanted that hatch first.
But I really like that he takes those precautions. I just would have loved in game number 1 for him to go for a little bit of a safer approach. I don't think that he expected Fantasy to go this Marine heavy, and then attacking the Marines off creep was something that he paid for dearly. Fantasy showed great micro. I mean, let's not take anything away from the Terran player, but Zenio attacking off creep with the Zerglings against the Marines was like,
And before that, he had a few pathing mistakes, you know, with the way that he was attacking his links across the map. He was trying to avoid the Marines, but every time he clicked across the map, the links turned around the wrong way, and Fantasy took every opportunity to punish him for that, killing those links early on. Really gave him that opportunity for the second attack with the bunker.
I personally like Zerg players, if they are faced with a double barrack opening, just go for one spine crawler. That's, you sacrifice a few minerals, but you have a certain amount of safety.
Yeah, and you never know if he's going to go for a 4 barracks follow-up, and that spine crawler becomes even more worth it.
Exactly, and you say, as I said, you save yourself some lava, and you can go faster into a drone transition. But in the end, what we had in this game was Zenio just losing a lot of units early on, but the bigger story was really Fantasy's macro that suddenly kicked in. He went for the 3rd base, Zenio didn't see it, went for a macro game himself, but Fantasy already way ahead, taking a few risks here, and he got rewarded for taking these risks.
Yeah, it was well worth it for him in the end. I'm curious to see if we're going to see the Hellion follow-up for Fantasy in a similar fashion or not. I really liked how he didn't make the reactor on his second factory. He was totally okay with leaving it naked and going just 2 Hellions at a time and getting the Hellions out faster with faster blue flame. He had a really nice timing there. Obviously, this type of play usually is only done with the double barracks because you have more Marines and you can hit that timing, because otherwise, if you only go with you know, about 33% less Hellions, you're not going to do as much damage with less Marines either.
Double Queen now coming out for Zenio, which gives him, of course, the initial safety that he needs, but that as he got a little bit lazy. Waypoint missing, but now we have the 3rd base coming up for Fantasy. Once again, 3 command centers.
3 CC is obviously a little bit different. With a 2 racks opening, you know, the game is just always a little bit different, but now he's got tech. He can control the map a little bit with his Hellions while he gets the 3rd CC up.
It's also a very different map that we have now, and as you just said, we don't have a double barracks opening. This is more of the normal style that you would expect in the Terran versus Zerg, especially on a map like Daybreak. So Zenio can now show us his real approach to the game. I feel in the last game, with how the match started out, he couldn't really show that to us.
Very true.
The Roach run at 36, which was standard timing for Roach Baneling aggression. Still droning up a little bit.
Yeah.
You have several approaches to how you do this. Either you go for the aggression, you go for Roach Painting, but you can also just get the Roach one, which he does, as you can see with the continued drone production.
Yeah, 10 more.
Get them as a defensive means. Even poke a little bit and say, hi, here I am, what do you have? Do you have a few Marauders already? Knock at the door of the Terran player. But you just get the Roaches out early. And we have a very fast-ish, okay-ish tech into there.
Oh, well, those Hellions were just there at the wrong place at the wrong time. If he had been there 5 seconds later, he probably could have killed that drone and denied it a little bit later.
That worked out well for Zenio.
Zenio does not really have a wall here. I mean, this is only 4 Hellions, but this is just a very vulnerable position for him. The Hellions are going to try to go in the main, and he does.
Here come the roaches.
But that's what the roaches are for. And when you skip the spine crawler, if you have roaches, you're still decently fine. This is not going to be a massive amount of damage, but still.
Holy
Nice
horses.
control.
I'm not quite sure. Yeah, he gets the roaches in there, but he needs to attack. Okay, 1, 2, 3 are done.
And he
How
gets
many
the
drones?
Hellion as well.
4 drones against 4 Hellions, but a lot of mining time lost.
I like this position though, because now that the Hellions are gone, there's no more map control really, and these Hellions should not be able to do much, but you know, he's got to get those roaches down there. I may stand corrected if he doesn't attack right away.
Yeah, he loses too much here.
Yeah, this is starting to get a little bit much.
Yeah, not only a little bit, he just lost 9 Harvesters against 6 Hellions. I'll take that trade, including the mining time. As a Terran player, I would take that trade anytime. Yeah, you wanted to kill more than only 9 workers, but still, that's lava that's lacking. Your opponent lost mining time. He'll also miss 2 of his injects, so that was okay. That was definitely good.
Still doesn't know about the third base, but he can assume at this point it's there. He got siege mode and siege sinks out very quickly, as well as starting a few marauders. I think after seeing the roaches, he was concerned about a possible roach attack, but I mean, even if no attack comes, he's still in a good position having these siege sinks out. They're obviously going to be important in any way when you're going for a siege tank marine composition.
You know, while we have this break in the game, one of the things that we want to highlight once again a little bit, just to give those players also a bit of exposure on Twitter, is, guys, if you are a fan of Zenio, then definitely make sure to cheer for him. His Twitter account is @LiquidZenio. Add him on Twitter. So far, he doesn't even have... He's actually 50 followers short of 7,000. That's something that we can definitely change right now. So his Twitter account, once again, @LiquidZenio. Let him know that you cheer for him. And then we have his opponent, SKT_fantasy on Twitter, the Terran player. He doesn't even have... He has 1,000 and roughly 300 followers. That's something definitely wrong. Terran players out there are doing something wrong right now. So jump on Twitter and add those 2 guys. Make sure to add the 2 of us as well, at Kaldor and at ProxyWolf.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm something short of like 86,000 followers of 100,000, but we can surely fix that, I'm sure. Terran players out there, you know. This roach attack, by the way, is going to be thwarted by the siege tank.
Yeah, the tank here really important, nicely shielded by those
Marines. It just goes to show how much one tank can really make a difference. He still will be able to target this tank down, but this attack could be much worse. And we have a pause.
Look at that.
By the Korean observer Heaven.
Yeah.
And this is weird because everything that I'm looking at looks pretty normal. 0 APM though currently for Zenio, and I'm sure that maybe he may not have been able to micro into the siege tank, because I was wondering why he didn't try to target it down.
Yeah, but while we have this break and trying to find out what's happening, this is once again the chance for you guys to do what we talked about earlier and add those 2 players and us on Twitter. I'll give you the accounts once again. This is @LiquidZenio for our Zerg player here on camera. We have @SKT_fantasy for our Terran player, and of course then @ProxyWolf for Wolf, myself @Kaldor. Make sure to add all 4 of us right now, because we have a little bit of downtime here, trying to find out what exactly is happening.
Yeah, what the Korean observer is saying right now is there's a problem with his keyboard, and that because of this, like, he requested a pause in his booth, like, by motioning.
You know, I was wondering why he didn't pull back with those roaches, and the roaches did a fair amount of damage and are actually doing really well here, but it was a little bit weird that he would not pull back against the siege tank, 2 marauders, and the marines that were there. So he lost the roaches, but looking at it, we have him in a position where he is 80 supply against 94 right now. We have for Zenio 1,300 minerals and 640 gas.
Yeah,
on the
just
production
wasn't using
tab,
his keyboard.
he didn't lose too much, right? Like no upgrade time, for example. +1/+1 is about to finish here.
He has 12 larvae.
Yeah, he has the lava as well, so he can hit the next lava cycle. I'm not sure if he hit his injects well, if that was affected by the keyboard, but from what we can see, it looks like he immediately requested the pause, and the pause was granted right away.
Yeah.
So, nothing that is... It could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse, and you know, I think part of the problem for him is he didn't get to target that siege tank down. He might have wanted to target down. It's hard to say with that much bio if he really would have wanted to do that, but he definitely didn't micro his roaches at all. He just let them fight. And since this is a problem with Zenio's hardware, it's his keyboard. Most likely, I think we will just have a resume here.
I would suppose
his keyboard will be fixed, he'll get a warning, and we'll have a resume.
Resources lost are still fairly even, 1,400 against 1,100. The harvest account 60 to 60, what we currently see here.
Spire's halfway done. 1-1's about to finish. The +1 for his roaches would have been useful in that fight, but unfortunately he didn't have it just yet.
Yeah.
Speed is halfway done as well. And 1-1 for Fantasy, a little bit further behind. His +1 attack is about 70% done, and his armor about 20% done, I would say. So
yeah, you can definitely see at his minerals that he lost some time here. With 1,200 minerals on the bank, that's not what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
You definitely want to spend that money. But yeah, it could have been worse here. He didn't lose too much. I guess we're basically good to go, aren't we?
I'm going to find out. I asked if everything's okay, and they said not yet.
Okay, so we'll wait a little bit longer and try to make sure that the keyboard for Zenio is working, that everything is going to be fine here.
Yeah.
And then we can...
There's always these problems where one player might argue there's something with Windows that caused his keyboard to break. It wasn't his keyboard problem. He checked it before, and so referees have to have some sort of discussion. Our new referee, in fact, former TSL coach probably in there being involved in this as well. Someone, of course, who's very familiar with the rules. So
we can use this time again while we have this break to remind you once more that we have the GSTL starting at the weekend with the GSTL preseason tournament. 8 teams are going to fight in this tournament for the first spot. And it's going to be in Heart of the Swarm. So we will play everything in the beta. This is a preparation for the teams to get used to Heart of the Swarm. And then we will have the normal season with the game release, with Heart of the Swarm, the final version that's going to be released on the 12th of March. And as expected, coming back to our individual league here with Code A, the problem was the keyboard of Zenio. And because it's his personal equipment, he gets a warning for that. And we will have a resume.
Yeah. Indeed. So I think they're going to tell us before we start exactly what we should be resuming in just a few seconds. Generally speaking, the process goes, the Korean observer counts down from 5, so the players are 100% ready before he resumes. And I'm hearing the Korean caster saying that we're going to start again, so it should be happening in just a second.
Yeah. What we have in the game, what we are coming back to in a few minutes, seconds, is that we have the upgrade advantage for Zenio. We talked a little bit about his up 1-1 finishing.
Yeah, and it's for
range,
roaches.
Exactly. Range and armor attack. But at the same time, Fantasy is trying to get his own first set of upgrades. But it's only done half of it,
yeah.
let's say.
And his armor upgrade is a little bit more behind than his attack. He's also got a 3rd command syrup. Yeah, he lost a lot of SCVs there, and the trade here is going to be fairly even at the end of the day, but that one siege tank, like I was talking about before, really made Fantasy feel a little bit more comfortable. If he didn't have that tank, he would have probably lost his whole bio, would have actually lost his bunker, and potentially more units there.
Yeah. What we'll see now is just the supply of Zenio skyrocketing right away, because he's going to use the bank that he has and put it into units. Actually, given the Spire timing, he might just wait for the Spire to complete here. With 650 gas, once again, probably 9 mutalisks.
Yeah, it would make sense for him to do that given what's happened to him now and that he has that Spire. He's got, right now, all 6 gases up and active.
From what we see here, let me have a quick look at the units. 3 siege tanks in total, 10 marines and 2 marauders. It's not really like Fantasy is going to walk across the map now and going to really attack with everything that he's got. That's highly unlikely here, especially if injects for Zenio are about to pop, then he will have enough. He also controls the map, and so far that he has a few circlings there and can scout what's coming towards his base. So he should have the time to just invest everything, or a lot of this, into Mutalisks and then try to get a little bit of map control. But even as the Spire is halfway done, we have the first missile turret now for the Terran player who starts preparing for these eventualities.
Yeah, and that missile turret, you know, I can't really see where it is. I think it's in the main base. We'll have to wait and see, though.
Yeah. Should be in the main. He's just setting everything up.
He's getting more reactors so he can produce 4 more Marines at a time. He's currently making 5, but he'll go up to 9, and he'll eventually add 2 additional barracks as well. His starport is finishing up, and he may add one of those reactors to his starport.
And the most important part now is, of course, that everything works fine for Zenio. The admins are making sure that this is the case, so that they continue the rest of the game without having any issues. And as soon as this is done, we're going to start the game. It's always a little bit annoying if you're in the flow of a match and then you are just taken completely out of it because of a technical issue. This is not only true for Zenio, who is probably freaking out a little bit more than Fantasy, but also for the Terran player. He's in the game, in the flow, and then suddenly you're completely out. But with what he just killed in roaches, he should probably be happy.
Yeah, I mean, mentally, though, going into a situation like this where you have a pause for this long, it can be really frustrating, you know? It's going to get into you a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I mean, this has happened in several tournaments in the past, and some players have complained afterwards saying, you know, this is so frustrating. It really affected my mind. I had to pause for a while. I was ready. I was about to hit my, you know, for example, Zenio wants to start +2 Carapace now for his units. He might be thinking that about right now, knowing his armor's about to finish now. He's like, well. And he's like thinking about something else. He's like, well, now what do I do with my gas? He's like sitting in his booth actually talking to a referee instead of thinking about whether he wants to make mutas now or a few more roaches or when he wants to drone up. He's only got 12 larvae. Is he going to hit all of his injects perfectly? You know, all these things add up right when the game resumes.
I feel that's something that he definitely thinks about before he starts the game. I mean, you look at the screen and it's paused and you're like, okay, well, let's go through a bit of a mental checklist right now. What do I have to do first? The roaches that are currently fighting with Fantasy are, of course, top priority. So just jumping there. I think there's like 5 left, so trying to... He's not going to try to take down the siege tank. That's not going to work for him. You will see that as soon as we are back in the game. But he will take down a few of those Marines. There are a lot of Marines. The siege tank is still at full HP. We might actually not see this when we go back into the game. But there are roughly 4 to 5 roaches left. He can take down a couple of the Marines that are there. The siege tank will survive. And
he needs to target the tank if he wants to kill, and that's part of the problem that happened in the last fight.
He can't, even if he takes down the tank or
if he
tries
targets
to focus.
the tank, the rest of the units will kill his roaches.
Yeah, the DPS is not there. So we're going to the countdown, and Zenio has to make sure that he has this checklist where he says, okay, well, the roaches are gone, let's jump into the base, inject, 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 and then go ahead. He immediately pulls the drones back, so we are jumping into the game in just a second. He didn't, he pulled the drones, the roaches back, there we go. The last roach, that was what was killed, but 3 more survive, and now here you have the situation unfold right in front of you. Still the bang for Zenio. He gets now the Baneling Nest, which he just started, +2 armor is already on its way, and the +1 attack upgrade for his Zerglings. The rest of the gas will go into Mutalisk just now.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's going to have about 8 mutas he can start right away. Spire is done now, and we'll see... I think we'll see 8. He starts Carapace first, in fact.
He was spotted. He was scanned. So there was a scout. Fantasy knows what's going on. This is exactly why he started those missile turrets in the first place.
Yes. And he still doesn't start the mutas just yet. Now he does. 9 of them immediately. Cancels 1, in fact. Goes up to 8. Weird. 8 is usually the max number you want to stop drops, for example. Interesting choice to go for the Carapace, though. Baneling speed now started as well, and he really did hit his timing right away for adding the additional upgrades. Carapace +2, and then the +1 for the Banelings and the Zerglings is right away started for Zenio.
The thing is, with the Carapace upgrade, you would think that he's going into attack mode, because that's what you try to do. If you're up against Thors, it's great. If you're up against missile turrets, it's awesome. Against Marines, if you have a lot of upgrades and the Terran player doesn't hit his his attack upgrades too well, you can fight. That's usually, you get this upgrade when you want to fight your opponent. I feel this is also just because he wants to transition into Broodlords later on.
Uh-oh, this is a mistake. Loses a muta for free there.
Yeah, this was a little bit awkward.
And now, oh wow, he could lose another one. He does. The muta's accomplished nothing. He loses 2 of them, almost 3. Zenio is down 25 supply here. His Infestation Pit finishes up. And you know, you're so right. This is an interesting choice. You know, if you get the +1 Carapace and you only have 8 mutas, yeah, it makes it so that you can pretty much keep them alive a little bit safer. It's only the cost of about a muta, you know, to get that upgrade out. So it's like, it's worth it, but
it just transitions well into
Broodlords.
Broodlords later on, and this is what he's aiming for. So the bigger problem is that Fantasy is once again way ahead in supply.
He's got such a massive lead that he's going to start bullying Zenio again. Zenio right now has 11 Banelings out on the map. They're off creep here, and even this first small group of Marines is enough to scare him away. Look at that targeting. Really nicely done by Fantasy. He's going to keep the attack. He may even be able to push down this 4th base. There's so many tanks here. He's got 7 tanks with this, not to mention the 2 Marauders, which are also going to be quite helpful.
A double scan with a little bit of a redundant area in the middle, not spreading them too much, but he takes down the creep tumors, and that's all that counts. 30 Zerglings coming in. +2/+2 is not completed just yet. We have the +2 armor upgrade done for Zenio, which gives him a bit of an edge, but still, Fantasy is taking down more Mutalisk, and I am scared of this guy.
I'm scared of him too, man. Zenio closing the gap in supply, getting a few more Lings out, but Fantasy's army is just so much better here, I feel. He's got the better composition, the upgrades are about to be better for him.
you have to flank this army. You cannot attack it head on, and that's what Zenio's trying to do here.
Zenio's trying to attack head on. He splits up again, another pathing issue for him here. And Fantasy destroys this army, and this base is toast. He's not even using his whole army to kill Zenio right now. He's using half of it.
Yeah, the rest of the reinforcements is still one screen to the left, and here comes the Greater Spire, but I don't think that Zenio can hold for this long.
Fantasy is fighting him in tank mode. The drones go to run, but it's too late. He loses too many. Fantasy is knocking that creep down. The Greater Spire is something he's saving all his resources, it looks like, to try to go into Broodlords, but I don't think he can survive that long.
He does not have the time. Nowhere near. He's losing his 4th base, and now the 3rd is being pushed. The 3rd base with the siege tanks being sieged up is under pressure. Here come the reinforcements.
2-2 is done for Fantasy. Medivac's really helping out here. Some banelings connected. It's nowhere near enough. GG! Fantasy with a crushing victory here. Taking Zenio out 2-0, wiping the floor, and moving into the 2nd round of Code A.
Really well played by Fantasy, and this means, of course, as a consequence for Zenio, that he is in Code B again. Very unfortunate for him, just qualifying for the 1st round of Code A and then immediately being knocked down. It's also very... It's just always really weird if you lose one of those games where suddenly your keyboard has issues, and that leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It's one of the most frustrating things that can ever happen to a pro gamer. You know, I used to fence, actually, and I've broken so many blades, and it's one of the most frustrating things ever, too, when you're on your last blade at a tournament because you broke other blades, and then you have to go borrow somebody's sword, and you're like running around, and you've got like 60 seconds to find a new blade. It really messes with your head. Even if you get a new blade, even if your friend gives you a blade that's better than yours and you get to borrow it, you're like, well, this isn't my blade. And suddenly you're mentally affected. You're in the middle of a match, you broke your sword, and you're
These fencing thingies are called blades and swords?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Well, usually they call blades, not swords.
That's
but
a poor excuse for a sword, isn't it?
I'm trying to use like swords so people know what I'm talking about, but yes.
Okay.
You can call it epee as well. That's what
that one I know.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a style I used to fence.
Okay.
It's the best one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, foilists.
And just like if I think about a
sword, and those weird
I
saber guys like are just going crazy. They think they're a pirate or something. I don't know.
Well, from fencing back to StarCraft, Zenio down in Code B. Fantasy advances to the next round, and of course we have 2 more matches for you today. The next game is going to be Rain. He's back, and he's up against Shine, MVP Shine. So we have another Protoss versus Zerg in about 5 minutes, because first of all we have a short break, and then we are back here at the GSL Code A with Carl and Wolf.